Our book, which you can't see, there it is, 25 Tips for a Healthy Marriage, is now available digitally for $5. You can go to my Instagram, the link's in my bio, or you can just go to KevOnStage.com/store. It is available for only $5. So if you support the podcast, you support the Love Hour Live, if you're going to be married, if you are married, if you are divorced, it's worth $5. It is worth $5. Look, Miss D Nice has it. Papa D's in here.
I just sent it to
Hey, Papa D is Melissa's dad.
Oh, how come I can't?
If you're almost divorced, still buy the book. There's still hope. There's still hope. If you want to support us, if you want to learn, I learned a lot of marriage tips prior to getting married that were very valuable. So you don't have to be married to get it. So go to KevOnStage.com. KevOnStage.com store. Let me check that link and make sure that works. KevOnStage.com/store. Yep, that's it. KevOnStage.com/store. It's upside down. Also, for this broadcast, the person with the most hearts will get a free copy of our digital book. So you can give up to 500 hearts per broadcast. If you do that much, you will win the book. If more than one person gets, I'll choose from there. But if you just want to make sure you have it, or if you want to support us, go ahead and purchase that for $5. And we would love you. Praise the Lord. It's your first time on Periscope. Now we're going to get started real quick because we got to be at church. Before we get started, we just want you to let us know where you at. Kevin and Melissa are here in sunny Los Angeles. All I want you to do is put your name and where you are right now. We want to see where we are so we know where to go. You do the arrow Papa D by tapping the person's name and then he'll reply. You can only get 500 hearts. Atlanta, Durham, Tacoma, Vancouver, Charlotte.
What's my dad's name on here?
In the living room in what city? Smart. Charisse. His name Papa D. Italy? We're international. We got somebody from Italy.
Oh, wow.
Ciao, Bella. Pizza. Rosanna from Atlanta. VC from Columbia, South Carolina. Vanny from Texas. Sacramento. Eva from Detroit. Michigan. Pittsburgh. Sunny. St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. We want to take a cruise there. Wadzi from London, UK, where it's 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us, London.
Zani from Jersey, Mona in Jersey, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Riverside, California, Malaysia.
Wow.
To the nations. To the nations.
Oh, that's amazing. Jason from his phone.
Come on down. Austin, Texas, Manchester, New Hampshire, Becky from the Sheriff's Office and Police Emoji, Las Vegas, Nevada, St. Louis. Don't go follow Papa D.
Don't you go follow my daddy.
Papa D has abs. So
I was just trying to figure out if they were on here, too.
Single women who are thirsty like to follow Melissa's dad. It's kind of awkward. Melissa, you look good with your short haircut.
Thank you, Daddy.
I love Papa D, man. He always been supportive. Dallas, Kentucky, Dana from Akron, Ohio, Lissa Papa _D, Massachusetts. Okay. All right.
All right.
To the nations. We sing. Okay, so today's topic is
Thank you, Shari.
Divorce, the consequences and repercussions of divorce. And I'm going to let my wife kick it off, and I'm going to grab a bottle of water. Go ahead, babe.
So I received a question when we were in Kev, where were we? Texas? I think we were in Texas, and I've talked about in the podcast before that my parents divorced about, 8 years ago or so, and the effects that it had on me. And one of the ladies that was in the audience I think it was in Texas, right?
Yes.
Wanted me to expand on that because I think she said something was going, or she was going through something similar. So I was just going to share pretty much my story and what happened to, how it affected me and all of that. So basically, my you guys all know that I pretty much grew up in the church. My mom was saved, from a time that I was very young, so I grew up in the church. My dad got saved when I was a little older, probably around 6th grade or so, 6th or 7th grade. Like my dad was in the military, so we moved from Germany to Hawaii, and I was going into 7th grade, and that's when he like really got saved. So I would say around 6th or 7th grade, he got saved. And so from that point on, you know, as far when I was younger, my parents' relationship was pretty rocky. But you know, from the time that they both got saved, it was pretty solid in my eyes. You know, from a child's point of view, it was a pretty solid relationship. They, you know, started doing stuff in the church. My mom became an ordained minister, and my dad started working in the church as a, you know, pastor's adjutant and being on the usher board and all these sort of things. So you know, you start living in like your happy ever after land where your world is perfect, and you live in a 2-parent household, and you and your sister, me and my sisters, and everything was all fine and dandy. And they were married for about 25 years probably, at least. How old am I now?
30. I don't want to say all the numbers.
-8. Yeah, probably about 25 years or so. And so they ended up getting divorced. And by that time, I was grown. I had Isaiah. Me and Kev were married for a few years, and it still rocked me. I used to say all the time that it like rocked me to my core. It rocked my very like foundation, because you grow up in a place where you want to emulate what you see your parents do. You know, in my eyes, they had a very solid relationship, and then all of a sudden they get divorced, and you start questioning everything. Like, I started questioning love. I started questioning God. Like, you know, if my parents grew up this way, I don't understand. I've always wondered what happened when couples who have been married for decades divorce, and I have some things for that. But so they, I feel like I'm all scatterbrained.
Okay.
But they.
Real quick, list. What we'll do is you talk. Don't worry about the question.
Okay.
We'll take questions after we finish. Y'all can talk in the comments, but we are going to address the conversation, because when we read the comments, it always distracts us and we go off on tangent.
Okay.
So
So they got divorced, and it rocked me. And the way in which it rocked me was that, again, this was, okay, so you have to understand that, like, this was the perfect, like, sequence of events. So I find out my parents get divorced. I had just had Isaiah, and Kevin, or I guess I hadn't just had Isaiah, but Kevin had got, he started doing comedy. Or was this a few years later?
No, this is before. The divorce was before I did comedy.
So the divorce was before, but I had just had Isaiah.
You just had Isaiah. We didn't even have Joe yet.
We didn't have Joe yet. But
And
somehow the comedy thing did kind of relate back to that, even though it may have been years earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
The ramifications stretched longer,
Right,
but
okay.
it wasn't immediate.
Okay, so I've never been a very jealous person. Just like in my natural personality, I'm not a very jealous person. You can't be all that jealous with him, because otherwise you drive yourself crazy, because he has so many people that, you know, that recognize him and want to take pictures with him and all these kind of things. But then after my parents' divorce, like, everything about me changed. Like, everything about me changed. So I became more jealous. So, okay, so fast forward a few years. Kev gets fired from work and starts doing comedy. Oh my God, I feel like I'm so scatterbrained, because then I kind of want to go back to the Takia story and how that all played a role.
Just go point by point. It doesn't matter what year it is.
Okay, so Kevin starts doing the comedy thing, and he's out in the clubs. We talked about this yesterday. He's out in the clubs, and I start, you know, there's a photographer there, so I start seeing all these pictures of Kevin with these other females, and instantly, like, all these insecurities start, like, just coming up, because I feel like, again, if my parents, who I felt were going to make it to happily ever after, to, you know, till death do us part, and they didn't, I started questioning what my thought was. Why do I think I'm exempt? That's literally the words that would literally replay in my head. I would ask myself, why do I think I'm exempt? If my parents, who were saved in the church, I felt had a good relationship, couldn't make it to their happily ever after, what makes me think that I'm different? And when you start having that type of thought process, it's so dangerous, because it's like you start seeing you no longer just live in this like naive little bubble where the world is good. You start thinking about, well, hold on, girls are kind of trifling. Like, I don't really know your motive. What are you doing with my husband? And why is he texting this person? I don't really understand. So then you start, again, going back to the story that we told of Kev, texting the female that we knew from high school, and I don't mean to say her name because I don't want to do that, but regardless, that starts happening, and now again, all based on the foundation of what happens to my parents, I start seeing the world differently. Everything affects me differently. So it was a huge learning process. I felt like I was in a slump. And honestly, the one thing that kind of got me out of it, and I wore it I'm getting emotional thinking about it, actually.
You are. That's all right. It is. It's an emotional thing.
It is very emotional, and I don't want to cry. But I literally wore the emotional. Oh, I don't want to cry.
It's okay. You was hitting me when you want to cry.
Because you're keeping me to cry. You want me to cry.
I don't want you to cry. It's an emotional thing.
I'm not gonna cry.
You're crying,
I
but
know,
it's okay.
So I wore literally, all of that on my shoulders, on my face, I felt it on a daily basis. So anyway, we were going to church in Washington, and my pastor spoke a message, and I was gonna look this up and I forgot, but he talked about Dorcas and Tabitha. And I think there was a name change. And did she die?
Yep.
She died, and then somebody called her to rise up.
Yeah, I want to say it was Tabitha that rose up.
And so my pastor, oh my God, it was so emotional. So my pastor literally called me out of the audience because, we were pretty close to them. And he kept calling me. He said he was calling me Tabitha, and he was, or Dorcas. I felt like he was saying Dorcas, but regardless. And he kept saying, rise up. Rise up, rise up. And that was the turning point for me. It really was a point for me to just decide, I can't wear this anymore. I can't own, and really that's the best word, I can't own what happened to my parents and let it affect what I have here.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for me. I literally took that message to heart, and I decided from that moment on, I can't own this. I can't let what they've done and the decisions that they've made for their life become the decisions that I have for my life. It does not dictate. What happened to them does not have to dictate what happens to me. And that was really...
And what happened to them is not necessarily an indicator of what's going to happen to you.
Right. And that's literally what I had to tell myself. It's literally what I had to, process and understand and own that truth in order to get over what happened to my parents. It's hardcore when you grow up the way that I grew up, and I was a virgin on my wedding day. So I wasn't the kid that grew up in the church but wasn't really here for the church. I was the kid that was in the church and internalized it and wanted to do good, and I was really just a really good girl, really. And it wasn't because out of fear. It was because it's just part of my personality, and I genuinely I love the Lord, and I wanted to do good. I wanted to do the right things. So when you grow up with that, and then all of a sudden you feel well, wait a minute, it didn't work for y'all. So why do I think it's going to work for me?
It calls the whole thing into question.
Because
y'all got to understand, Melissa's mom saved.
Yeah.
She wasn't no halfway tiptoeing. She was a Bible preaching, good preaching.
Yeah, she was a good preacher.
Spitting verses out.
I feel like there's an eyelash in my eye. When we were in Germany, my mom had first got saved when we were I grew up military, so we were in Germany for a few years, and my mom really got saved. And when I tell you, we say stuff like prayer closets, and we mean it figuratively, no. In war room, yeah. But it was that woman's actual closet. No. My mom had an actual closet, and she had a sign that she typed up on the computer and said, praying, do not disturb. And she put it in one of those plastic sleeves and stuck it on the door. It was serious. And she would go in there and pray for hours.
We bless you, Father. We love you.
She would have concordances, dictionaries, Living Translation Bible. The King James Version was cross-referencing. It was
highlighters everywhere.
Highlighters, notes, everything. When I tell you this woman was like, listen, I'm here for the Lord and that's all that I'm here for. Like, it was serious. My dad wasn't saved again in Germany and he used to drink. My mom would pour out his alcohol and drink and pour the other half, fill it up with anointing oil.
Wait, really?
Yes.
I never heard this.
Yes.
He still drink it?
Yes.
That had to be awful.
Well, I'm sure he recognized. I don't know. I can't say for sure if he drank it, but for sure.
Oh, you gonna drink this blessing, D?
Like, yeah. So yeah.
What is in my drink?
Yeah.
Who keeps putting this in my Hennessy?
Oil. Yeah.
Why my Hennessy tastes like the Lord?
Yeah. It wasn't Hennessy. My goodness. Yeah. No, she wasn't playing.
Yeah, she's still living. She's very yet alive. But Melissa was giving her makeup tips yesterday.
Giving who?
You know, we black. We have our kids early and often.
She sent my She sent me a picture this morning. Was like, did I do good? It's kind of funny. So anyway, yeah. So it was a very hard thing. I get emotional right now because
Focus.
I know. I saw Jay's comment. I get emotional now because it is something that is emotional. But honestly, it's not something that I carry with me on a daily basis at all. My dad's found himself a new boo. They about to get married. Sorry. I guess I don't know who's watching. Maybe I should have said that. So yeah.
And your mom got a new boo.
Yeah. So I mean, this was 8+ years ago or however long ago. So it's not something. I know. Sorry, y'all. Yeah. Sorry. So again, it's not something that I own. It is emotional when I talk about it because I mean, I'm over it, but it is something that, it's something that happened in my life. So yeah, it's not something. It's changed me to this day. I'm not the same person I was before my parents got divorced at all. It opened my eyes. I've learned to never say never. I've learned to, speaking of, I said we were going to do this. I wrote a blog post for my very good friend, Shari and Sharice, on the optimistic divorcees. They are on here. If you are divorced, currently or going through divorce, I definitely recommend checking out their blogs. They're excellent writers, just in life. They're really good writers. But because they are also divorcees, this is something that's near and dear to their heart. And I find it to be honestly, I promote them sometimes. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to promote them a lot on Facebook because I feel like it's a ministry. I feel like in church, we're so busy talking about divorce is not an option. And yet, we got a church full of divorced folks.
Pastors get divorced.
Pastors get divorced. Your ministers are getting divorced. People in the service are getting divorced.
We went to a white church in LA, and they had a divorce ministry on the program. I remember looking like, I've never seen that before.
Right, and that's what I feel like. I feel like we missed that opportunity to minister to people that are in that state. Everyone's not married. There are people that get divorced, and the fact of the matter is that that's a fact. And so you have to do things and cater to a group of people that aren't being, it's not a divorce ministry. It's a ministry for the divorced.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm trying to make a distinction.
It was to care to divorced people.
Right.
It was a ministry that cared to divorced people. It wasn't like divorced people like, hey, this is the divorce choir. We sat in the city. Yeah, right. We're sat in the field. Right. It wasn't like that. It was to speak to people who were divorced.
Exactly.
And help them through. And they also had like a miscarriage ministry. They had some things like that. Those were two that we had, and bereaved family. Yeah. But the miscarriage ministry and the divorce ministry were the ones that we hadn't seen prior.
Yeah, I feel like that's important. I really do. I feel like that's important. I feel like that's an area of ministry that we often miss. And so, check out their blog. I wrote a blog for them called Divorce is an Option. And don't let the title fool you. Don't come for me in these comments. Read the blog first so you can understand, because it comes from a point of what I experienced growing up with divorce is not an option and how I began to interpret what that means and thinking about the fact is divorce is an option. It is. Because people get divorced all the time. despite it being an option, you choose not to get divorced. You choose to stay in love with your spouse. You choose to continue to love. And that's what makes divorce not an option that we decide to go down. But it is an option.
It's legal. It's an available thing.
It's an available option.
It happens to people.
And it happens to people. So, again, check out the comments. Check out their blog. Check out my post. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
That ain't all you have to say.
That is all I have to say.
I wanted to talk about let's clap for Sister Liz. Let's give her some hearts because she came and she shared her hearts.
And I cried.
She cried her good makeup off.
I know.
If you would be so kind and give some hearts because she shared her hearts, amen. Our goal in today is to break 300,000. No, don't type the hearts. You got to tap the screen, not emoji hearts. We need the physical being, amen. We got to touch the screen. Because Lisa hates crying in public. And a live broadcast is about as public as it can be. And this is going to be on our podcast, the Love Hour Live. I think we're going to just always do our podcast live streams so we can interact with you. But divorce, her parents' divorce affected our relationship. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I thought I did.
Well, remember, we used to get into almost arguments.
About what?
Like Melissa said, she wasn't jealous at first. So, and I haven't been like a public figure our whole marriage, but I've been pretty popular our whole marriage. Yeah. I was on the JV basketball team for 4 years. So at first I was like ahead of the time. That's not even a true story. I've just been saying it so long that it's just funny. But I was a star JV mediocre athlete. And, I scored 26 points in a basketball game one time. And, and I had 3 blocks and a steal. So that's a triple-double for me because I got 3 things.
Was I at that game?
You were at that game. That was Yelm.
I remember.
Your boy balled at Yelm. I went ham. Blocked somebody, shot into the stands, and that was my crowning achievement. But we had done plays, so we were kind of like locally famous in Tacoma. And then when the YouTube stuff blew up, we just, look me up, baby. Look me up. You gotta go to Microfiche to find my highlights. They don't exist on YouTube.
The shade.
But anyway, so what happened was almost the perfect storm of things led to some difficulty in our marriage. So we had Melissa's parents getting divorced, and then her like that crumbling of. If you've seen the movie Inside Out. Give me a 1 if you've seen the movie Inside Out. It's the movie Disney Pixar's Inside Out, because I think there's a great analogy in there.
You love that movie?
I love Inside Out. Give me a 1. Just type 1 if you've seen Inside Out. Okay, good. There's a lot of people who've seen it, so you're gonna get this analogy. So do you remember when the little girl, I can't remember her name, she had Hockey Island and Friendship Island and Goofy Island. I'm not gonna spoil it. But she had all these big islands and stuff like that. And then when things happened bad in her life, that island broke and crumbled. So Melissa's parents' marriage was like an island to her. And when they got divorced, that whole, all of that crumbled and fell. And it she almost had to recalibrate herself. Because it's like, if you don't think someone close can ever die, and then somebody young dies, you start saying, I love you more. It shakes you. If you're in a near-death accident, you start seeing the world differently. Same thing happens with divorce. When you get divorced, you start rethinking about your marriage. So Melissa used to be super jealous, and I used to have to tell her, she used to be so worried, but what about this? What about that? Melissa also worries like crazy.
Yeah, I am a worrier.
And that's an inherent thing because Zay worries.
My mom's a worrier.
Is she? Mm-hmm. Is that a generational worry?
Probably.
Zay worries like crazy, and JoJo just flies by the seat of his pants. But Melissa worries a lot, and it will start to affect her marriage. So I used to be like, Liz, your parents were like, oh, this is what you used to say. My family's all messed up.
Yeah.
My family's all messed up. Melissa's dad had served overseas for a long time. Her mom had moved. Mel was in college in Spelman, and Nick was with us in Washington. And at one point, Nick was in the Army, and he used to say, our family's messed up. My family's messed up. Kev, why is my family messed up? Why is my family messed up? And I used to have to be like, Liz, your family is, your parents and your siblings will always be your family. Mm-hmm. But your primary family is me and these boys. And you can't let the family, the family that your grow-up family, who's still always going to be your family, but you can't let what's going on in their life affect your family that you live every single day with. You got these boys need you.
Yeah.
They pooped up their back, and you can't wipe them up because you're crying. So, yeah, I mean, we spoke for 30 minutes on the topic. Do you want to take a couple questions?
Sure.
We got some time for some questions.
Jason out here making
family of origin. That's what I was trying to think.
Yeah, that was good.
Family of origin. Thank you, whoever said that. What are your thoughts on marriage and relationships now? What are your thoughts on marriage and relationships now?
Oh, after my parents' divorce?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was processing the question. I mean, I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
Oh, that question was to someone else.
Oh, okay.
Somebody said, "What are your thoughts on something?" And the question faded away. It was, "What are your thoughts on Jesus?" or something like that.
My
I
parents
don't know.
were never married, but regardless of their decision, I've been married for 11.5 years. That's good.
Advice for divorced people who hope to be married again. You saw that question. I don't know if you wanted to answer that.
Advice for divorced who hope to be married again. Do you want to answer? You know, I don't do good with those type of questions.
Huh?
I don't do good with those type of questions.
Advice for people who are hoping to be divorced. Actually, go to optimisticdivorcees.com. It's a whole blog filled with advice. We've been married for 11 years. It's a whole blog filled with advice from people who are actually divorced.
Can you put the blog in the comments? I think it's like www.optdivorcees.com. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but just in case. Can you guys put it in the comments?
Somebody said, "I believe that the concept of marriage is great, but the reality of marriage is not for me." Paul said that. Paul said that that's the case for something. How did your parents change following the divorce?
Everything changed. Like, everything. The optimisticdivorcees.com. There it is. Yeah, everything. I won't even get into they're different people. Totally different people, right? The person, my mom is no longer the person, like, my sisters and I always say that the Mary that I grew up with is, she got on an airplane and went to space somewhere. I don't know who this person is. She's just a different person. My dad is a different person. They're just very different people now. So it changed them, as well. They're very different.
How old were you during this?
Probably about 25.
Yeah. Win was actually younger because Zay was just born.
So
this
probably
started
23.
happening. And Zay's 9.
Yeah, I think I had Isaiah when I was 23.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably around there.
So this is only 2 years. And this is the thing that's kind of interesting about this. Me and Melissa dated for 4 years and engaged, but we had only been married for 2 years when this happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you newlyweds for the first 3 years or whatever? So we were newlyweds. And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yes, we were high school sweethearts. We started dating when we were 16. I think I was 16.
We were both 16. No, I was 17.
Different people in a good way? Just different. Just different. I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad, but they're just different.
Somebody said, "I want to know what would cause a saved woman to divorce. Please share."
I won't go into that detail today.
Okay. Mind you, these are real people. These are not fictional people.
Yeah, these are my real life parents.
Who can watch. So
And to the point, because saved was capitalized, again, going back to this idea that because we're saved, we don't get divorced. Saved people get divorced. For many different reasons.
And it's not only adultery.
Many.
That's the one people always say.
Many different reasons.
Yeah. It's people like, it's only cool if it's in the adultery. That may be biblically true. But that is not what people are doing in the real, actual, day-to-day walking. There are pastors who would cheat on their wife, who is the first lady, and then get married to the person they've cheated on their wife, and then continue in ministry.
Yeah.
That's not what the Bible says you should do. That's what happened.
Yeah.
There are pastors
I'm not saying that the Bible doesn't say we shouldn't get divorced.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about a reality that we live in.
The Bible says we shouldn't do a lot of things, and we spend all day long doing them. We fall daily. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. There's some people from back home who were married for 30 years, and infidelity wasn't part of their divorce, and they were in ministry, and they got divorced with grown kids like Liz, and we're certain they're going through Yeah, somebody said we got to get out of this fantasy land. We be out here.
And I lived it.
Yeah.
I was in a fantasy land. I was in a fantasy bubble where I'm looking at you crazy if you're saved and you're talking about divorce. What?
Your dad asked how long it took for you to get over their divorce.
It took. Someone asked how did my parents feel about me sharing their story. I've had a conversation with my dad because he listens to the podcast. This is the first time I actually think he's joined on Periscope, but he listens to the podcast. I talk to my dad like on a weekly basis about the podcast, basically. And he's okay with me sharing. I don't know, and actually, I think my mom is too. I do actually. I do think they're both sharing.
A living testimony.
Yeah, it's a testimony, and it's my story. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like and that's why I'm not going into too much detail about them.
Why they got divorced? Because why they got divorced doesn't matter to how that affected. So exactly. It's that they got divorced.
Right. Exactly.
So if y'all want to be nosy,
yeah,
we ain't gonna let you learn.
I got that question. I'm not going to answer that.
That doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I'm a nosy person, so I would want to know, but I know the deets. Yeah, I got all the tea.
I'm just here to tell you about how it affected me.
Let's pause for the cause real quick. You got an answer?
Yeah, no. Someone asked me. The original question was.
How your dad asked you? How long did it take you to get over it?
How long did it take me to get over it? It probably took about. It took a couple years.
It took a good amount of years.
It took a couple years.
I'd say you probably got about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it took a while. It definitely took
because it kind of lay dormant and you couldn't really put your finger on.
Yeah,
it took a while to. First, it took a while to realize that it was real.
Yeah. You have to like process it, then you have to like accept it. Well, no, you go through like a grieving almost.
Yeah.
Because it's like the so to speak, the death of your family. Like it was, you have to grieve.
It's definitely a familial bond for sure.
Yeah. You have to process it, then you have to like accept it, and then you adjust. Literally, I think those were the steps to a new normal.
And then what happens is holidays it was easy. Get really weird, because we grew up where you go to Thanksgiving and Christmas with your family.
Yeah.
And we're military brats, so it's always like wherever we are, we'll be there. And then Melissa's dad was gone, her mom was gone, and then we are just growing up. And that's when me and Melissa, Jay, Monique, we started having Thanksgiving. That's when I really first felt superiorly all the way grown, is when we had Thanksgiving on our own. Mm-hmm. Because our kids wasn't no grandma. It was me, Liz, Jane, Tam, Nick, and then our friends. And our kids was eating on the newspaper like black people do.
Yeah.
Divorce affects so many, not just the couple that was married. Absolutely.
That's an absolute truth.
Oh, and pause for the cause.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's funny because you think, and that's why I always say that I was grown. I always say I was grown and gone because I was grown and gone, like out the house. I, was married and graduated college, like I was on my own, and it still had such an effect on me. Yeah. Like it had such an effect. And my sisters. I mean, I have 2 younger sisters.
Yeah. It affects you probably no matter what age you are. The pause for the cause is that we have released our book digitally. 25 Tips for a Healthy Marriage is available at KevOnStage.com/store. We are giving out a free copy or potentially free copies to the people who give us the most hearts. Hearts, if you're new to Periscope, when you tap the screen, it gives the viewer a broadcaster heart. Hearts are important because it makes you a featured broadcaster, and Periscope just recognizes you more. And we're trying to be like dominating Periscope. By the way, follow Optimistic Divorcees.
Follow Periscope. The Optimistic Divorcees.
Follow my brother at Jason Fredericks. He's a brilliant Periscoper. We are trying to do all types of things. 300,000 followers. We done meet our goal for the building fund.
300,000 followers.
Hearts.
Oh, heart. Oh, wow, hearts. That's amazing. Thank you, boo. These are my faves.
Call Oprah. Look, man, we are trying to change the way. Periscope to us and the podcast. We are trying to change the way things are sought. We are young and we are living life right now. I want to go to the Periscope Summit. I want to get them to recognize that we out here. So, all right, we'll take a couple more questions. That was a really succinct podcast. We'll take some questions before we go to church. If you guys have some about divorce or anything else, so please share them in the comments, and we'd love to chat with you while we have time. How do you interpret divorce in light of what Jesus said about divorce and remarriage? I don't really know. I feel like that's a good question, but I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Talking about that, the only way in God, according to the Bible, the only way out in terms of divorce is for adultery.
Yeah.
Is that what she's asking?
I don't know. I don't know.
At the end of the day, I believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Would you talk about counseling? Would you recommend counseling? Some couples divorce faster with counseling. Here's what I recommend.
Yeah, listen though. I'm starting to read or audible listen to a new book. I haven't decided if I like it that much, but the author was actually talking about just that some people that counseling for some people opens more wounds and causes people to divorce quicker.
Really?
Yes, he did like a study on it in a group of counselors that he was involved in, and then he expanded it because he was like, we're all failing, like we're all counseling people, but they all are divorcing. Like, it was really interesting. I'm still trying to get to, I just started this book, so I'm still trying to get to like where he's going with it. So do I recommend counseling? Yes. I just don't know how effective it is. I don't know. And maybe it's because we're not going to people who are certified counselors. Like, this is what they do.
So you said there's so many issues during hidden issues.
Yeah, that are stirred.
You're like, well, you know what? In '89, you dropped the hammer on my toe.
Yeah, someone said you should see a Christian counselor. I absolutely believe that. I believe what you should do is find a Christian who has a professional background in counseling. A lot of times what I think we do is we go to a pastor and they aren't equipped to give us the counseling that we need because they don't have the proper training. It's not just, you have to have some training with that.
Yeah, people assume that just because you're the pastor, you're an expert on all things. They got to be a doctor. You got to pray and diagnose. You got to be able to counsel. You got to know about fantasy football. Man, this person just got his daddy's church. Sometimes that's the only thing is their granddad was a pastor, their pastor, and listen, man, that don't mean that they know how to counsel marriages. They might be going through a difficult time in their marriage and looking for a counselor. So what I was going to say is I recommend not giving up on your marriage before it's too late. Because a lot of times people who get divorced regret it. Mm-hmm. And they feel like they didn't leave it all. They didn't go, they didn't leave it all. Or they feel like the grass is greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, more of the times, that's not true. Papa D said, good point, man. He knows.
I haven't even seen my dad's stuff. Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
He has a faith thing as his.
Did we do premarital counseling? Yes, we did. Marriage enrichment. We did, which was like a group thing at our church, and we did that like for a year while we were engaged. At our church, you couldn't do that unless you were engaged, so we did it for about a year, and then we did about, I think, 6 to 8 weeks of premarital counseling.
Yeah.
And so we did premarital counseling, but I don't know that was enough to keep us. You gotta go. It's like marriage is also on-the-job training. I think a person should exhaust all options to make their marriage work before deciding to divorce.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. Can the lack of friendship be one of the main causes of divorce?
You know what? I was actually thinking about this on this, again, going back to this new book that I'm reading. He was talking about going through the stages of love and all of these things. And I'm trying to think of, like, really trying to dive into, like, the way that I think. At some point I want to write my own book, and so I've been thinking about, like, what do I think about this? And I was actually thinking that there's, we always talk about, come on, Melissa, and be a little bit with your Greek self, eros love,
Ishkata,
which is an erotic love, but I think a lot of times that we don't have phileo love, which is a friendship love.
Wait, is that where fellatio comes from?
No, but that's where Philadelphia comes from.
No.
The brotherly city.
I thought it was at fellatio.
No, and I think that word is fellatio.
Fellatio. You can't tell me that. Chill, Kev, her dad is on.
Yes.
I totally forgot your dad was on.
Yes.
Sorry, Papa D, but these kids came from somewhere.
Phileo. I believe it's called phileo. And that is friendly. And I think a lot of times in marriages that the erotic love erodes because we don't maintain a friend. We don't like each other.
Yeah, a lot of times people are more interested in sexually than they are friendship.
Yeah.
The thing about me and Melissa, and I always say this when I'm trying to cake.
Oh, your pastor taught that? I wanted that to be my own thought. I feel like I made that up yesterday.
We were friends for a year, almost a year before we dated. Mm-hmm. So we were friends, then we were boyfriend and girlfriend, then we were engaged, then we were married, but we've always been friends. Melissa's been my best friend. My boys give me crap about this, but Melissa is my friend. She's my friend. We go to the movies and stuff, and like we have a good time outside of being married. But she was a good friend prior to us being married, and that's why I wanted to date her. So yeah, man, being friends is very important because a lot of times you be married and be like, man, you know, there's shotgun marriages where you have the kids. I feel like that there's two marriages that I feel like are the two worst ways to get into marriage. One is we have a kid, so we should get married. Mm-hmm. Like we had premarital sex. And now we gotta get married. Somebody said, have we ever considered divorce? We should answer that. And the other one is might as well get married. And that's the jagged edge. We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do this. It's like we've been living together for 3 years. We've been splitting the rent. We might as well get married. Those are not good reasons to get married. Right. Having a child is a good reason to take care of a child you have. That's a good reason to co-parent. It's a good reason to split custody or joint custody or to pay child support. Having a child is not necessarily an indicator that you should get married. Having a child is only the benefit of unprotected sex. It has nothing to do with we should marry each other. So I feel like a lot of people get married for that and then they might as well get married. And then you realize, I don't even know why I got married. You know what I mean? And have you ever considered divorce?
Have I ever considered? Is that what she's fussing at me? Answer the question.
I don't know, but that's a question I saw that I thought was a good one. No, we haven't considered divorce. I don't think we've gone down that path. We've been mad at each other, and Lisa tried to make me sleep on the couch, but I refuse. Yeah. But we have never considered divorce.
Just really quickly, because I saw this going back and forth. The Optimistic Divorcees website is not a site that promotes divorce. You're not going to email them and say, I need some advice. I'm in a relationship, this, that, and the other. And they're going to be like, divorce, next, next, divorce.
We're divorced.
Next.
Everybody should be divorced.
Ding, ding, ding. What are we celebrating? No, that's not the point of the website. The point of the website and what they do is to encourage and offer, encouragement to people that are in divorce, that are divorced.
Yeah.
That are divorced. Not going through, but are divorced. They've been there. They've done that. They know, again, the cycle of divorce. There's a grieving process. There's an acceptance process. There's a rebirthing process. I probably made that all up. But regardless, there's a process that goes through that you feel alone sometimes. You might blame yourself. There's all these things, and they're here to say, what you're going through is normal. I've gone through that. You can make it. God loves you. You're still wanted. That's the point of their website. They're not here to just encourage you to divorce your spouse. That's not the point of the website.
I saw a good question. In your opinion, what's the most important factor in a successful marriage?
Okay, so we answered that question. I said communication. You said sex.
I thought that was a different question.
Oh, was that? I don't know. It was very similar.
I feel like love, and not in a fake foundational sense. In Hollywood movies, love is butterflies in your heart and flutters in your belly. That's indigestion in real life. In real life, love is more often doing what you don't want to do because of the way you feel about someone.
Yeah.
I don't wipe my kids' butt when they're first born because I love the sight of poop. I wipe their butt because I love them and I care for them. I feed them. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night.
Love is a choice.
Love is a choice. It's not. It's a choice and it's an action.
It's a choice and it's an action. Even when you're mad.
You said option or action?
It's an option and an action.
Oh, okay.
It's both. Even when and that's why I say divorce is an option, because it's also a choice.
And an action.
And an action. You're deciding not to love and to go the alternative route, which is to divorce.
Yeah.
Or you can decide, I'm not going to do this, and instead I'm going to choose to stay with my spouse and decide love and choose love and continue to work on your marriage.
Right. Jay said Hollywood love is romanticized, and when you don't feel that in real life, something is wrong.
Yeah.
You don't feel butterflies. You see butterflies. You see butterfly animals. Yeah. But that little flutter that they make you feel in movies, we don't got no vibe, we ain't connecting. All that stuff is mythical. It's about as real as hobbits and dragons.
And marriage is a compromise.
And marriage definitely is a compromise.
Marriage requires compromise.
Yeah. Love is saying, Melissa's telling me I don't really like your relationship with that girl. And me saying, you know what, out of my love and respect for you.
That girl, I feel like she read my blog. I said that too. Marriage is a choice that produces commitment. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You read
I mean, you might feel butterflies at first, but you ain't
going.
going. We've been together we've been married for 11 years, and we've been together for 15 years. When I first would see Melissa in the hallway, I fluttered and all that stuff. But after we've been married, that you don't like.
Part of that is because of the when something's new.
Yeah.
That's when all that is.
That's all that is.
Okay, now she's just doing one-liners.
They get very. How do you deal with temptation? We've got about 10 minutes left. How do you deal with temptation? You don't act on it. We talked about this a little bit the other day. You can see an attractive person and acknowledge they're attractive. As long as you're not acting on that and being like, man, I wonder what's up. Let me get a number. Let me get this. Let me get blah. Let me get this. Then you should be okay. I think we said something along those lines for that. Do you screenshot something?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Love is blind, but marriage is like LASIK. I don't know what you mean by that.
I feel like infatuation is blind. think she's trying to say that when I feel like infatuation is blind, meaning you're infatuated, you don't see any wrong, everything is great. And then once you become married, I think they're saying that like all of a sudden everything is clear, like you see everything.
Where do you draw the line if your spouse is not giving love in return? Do you feel like we have an answer to that?
Where do you draw the line? No.
I don't know. I'm Pop said I'm so on point. Thank you, Papa D. All right, we got time for a couple more questions, then we got to watch these kids' faces again and make sure we get onto that church house. And thank you to the men who tuned in on Football Sunday. Because I know my Seahawks are playing. I don't know what's happening. They could be up 700-0.
Date night, important, absolutely.
Absolutely. And date night without the children.
And ladies, listen, I'm a proponent of date nights. I love a great date night. When you go out on a date night, you get dressed.
Wear a thong. Wear a thong.
Do your hair. Put on some earrings.
Smell good.
Do all that.
Well, who was that celebrity that said no sweats? Was it Eva Mendes?
Yeah, it was Eva Mendes. I think I knew what she was trying to say. She just said it all the way wrong. Because, everybody's wearing shirts, sweats from time to time. However, if your husband say, let's go out on a date, let's do a date night, child, don't put on some sweats.
Yeah.
Put on something cute.
Somebody said, are you angry at your parents for getting divorced?
Absolutely not. If you asked me that 8, 9, 10 years ago.
You've been delivered.
I've been delivered. But today and where I am today and the headspace that I'm in at this point, no, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I've accepted, I'm in a place of acceptance of this new normal. I still go through moments, things come up. But at the end of the day, I am fully aware of this is my new normal. Sometimes
you wish that we could just go to mom's house for Christmas and it was as simple as that. But you just got to adjust. Mm-hmm. This is the new normal. Before we had kids, we could get up at 12 o'clock at midnight and say we want to go to IHOP. And we could do it.
Yeah.
We could want to go to Rome. But once we had a baby, our new normal was you couldn't just get up and do that. Once we had 2 kids, our new normal was this, And then once our kids leave, our new normal is we can do those things. Once our kids are older, so your marriage is about the constant growth and change and reacting to change and changing as people change. Because this is Liz, 7.0. She's not the same person she was when we were first, outside her parents' divorce, just for other reasons. Motherhood changed her a lot. Getting a job, losing a job, the amount of money you make, all these type of things.
Someone said, is it my dad's first time hearing my feelings on this? No.
No.
I had a really good conversation with him a couple months ago about a whole bunch of stuff, including this and the way that we grew up and my feelings. This isn't his. I mean, he's my dad. It probably hurts his heart to hear how it affected me, and then I was crying.
And nobody wants to see their baby girl cry. Baby girl.
And I'm a daddy's girl.
You're my baby girl.
But is it his first time hearing this? No.
No. He tuned in for the broadcast because he knew we was talking about
Yeah.
this.
And we've talked about this before. In fact, we talked about it one time, and he called me after. He's like, I felt like you were holding back. I want you to know that it's okay. You can talk about it.
I got two questions. Kev, what was the first thing that initially attracted me to Melissa? Her rays of sunshine beauty. She was so pretty and
so extra.
beautiful. I saw her and Antoine gave her a note, and I was like, I liked Melissa from the moment I saw her. I said, man, that is a pretty girl.
Yeah, my dad said I talk to my girls all the time.
I said, man, I would love to marry her. I was 15 years old, and I saw our future of children. I knew our kids were going to be Zeze and JoJo. I knew we would Periscope. I knew Periscope.
We're moving on to the next question.
I knew
because
we would
now
do a
he's telling himself
podcast.
that he's a prophet. That's not even a prophet. That's like a, I don't know what you trying to be a, what the people that tell
See, Papa D said, I remember.
What?
That I loved you from the moment I first started.
Gosh.
My mom didn't like Liz because once we started dating, I spent all my time at Melissa's parents' house. Melissa lived literally a 2-minute walk from my house. They lived
Psychic,
on
thank you.
the next. No, I'm a prophet. Psychic is of the devil. Prophet is given by God. They lived
God
literally.
didn't give you the vision.
Yes, he did. A 2-minute walk from my house. We rode the same bus together. Went to the same high school. All that stuff. Somebody asked, what about my parents? My parents are married still. My mom was divorced. She was divorced prior. My biological father didn't raise me. William D. O'Kelly is my father. He raised me, Jay, and I was going to say me, Jay, and me, Jay, and my younger sister, Michelle.
You just got it.
I'm all over the place. Somebody said, love your input, Liz.
Thank you.
So my dad taught me a lot about how to love a woman. My mom's disabled. She's legally blind. And my dad showed me how to love a woman and do everything. So I feel like my dad taught me a lot about love and sacrifice. He was young with no kids, and he took on a woman who had 3 kids. And Jason was one of those kids. And he was a handful. He was a difficult child.
Jay, don't let him talk bad.
He didn't believe in the Lord. He didn't serve the Lord with gladness. I was a great child. Michelle was a terrible child, just bad. But just seeing how my dad loved my mom taught me a lot about marriage, and how my dad would just be like, do we have a song? I don't know what that means. Like a favorite song? No, Melissa likes Butterfly Kisses. Butterfly Kisses. I think you like that because it's about somebody's dad.
I do like that song.
We have a couple
I asked
songs.
Liz for y'all to start to Periscope. Watch yesterday's podcast.
Jay said my head was a handful. I do have a big head. Look at it. Look how much space it takes up in the screen. Look at that. It's Liz's whole body.
Okay, how much time do you have?
We got about 5 minutes. And before we go, or less than that, 3 minutes, our book is now available. If you enjoy the podcast, help us out. Go support the ministry. KevOnStage.com/store. It's only $5. Digital download. Kev has a little head, don't lie. We all know my head. Oh, Liz has a little head.
I have a head like my dad. It's narrow.
Waterhead Kev was his nickname. Okay, just bully me in my own Periscope, Jason.
Yes, I am petite. I'm a little.
KevOnStage.com. Get the book for $5. It will bless you. It's a no money back guarantee. So it's $5, man. I spent that at Chick-fil-A. $5, Buster.
It's expensive.
But we are going to choose the winner from whoever had the most hearts. And if there's more than one people, we might just give. Here's a good question. We'll end on this. How important is it to have married friends as couples? Married couples as friends.
I think it's important. We don't have that many because it's not that many out here. But I do like doing things. We have a D and Scott, we have friends here, and they have a little boy who's around the same age as Isaiah, and they come over once a month for Taco Tuesdays, and we just sit and talk, and we really have a good time. So I think it's important. It's fun to do stuff with other couples.
Yeah, I don't know. We had a good friendship base in Washington. Jay's married, Keita's married, Nick wasn't married. And that
we have mixed there.
Yeah, Denise was married.
You don't have to go through all the list. That's why.
That's all our friends. We had. I don't know that it affected our marriage in any way.
No, but we had friends that were married, and then it's important.
What's important is to have friends who believe in marriage. Friends who will keep you accountable. If you have friends be like, man, I'm slipping, and be like, man, just slip. that's probably dangerous. So whether single or married, if they believe in the sanctity of marriage and encourage you,
that was good.
That's important. Should your spouse have friends of the opposite sex? We're going to take that down and use that as a whole other podcast because that's not enough in 2 minutes. What's up, Jujimon Monsters? Jujimons are the champions.
What
that's
time
my nephew.
Is it? Oh, I guess it's later.
It's 2 o'clock on the East Coast. So
Juju be getting this here marriage advice.
It's 11 o'clock here. We thank y'all for tuning in. We got to go to church.
We do.
We can do. We're going to do Periscope for singles advice. I don't know. We don't know as much about singles as we do about being married. So
when will you announce the winner?
I'll announce the winner tomorrow. And I'll announce it on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram.
Oh, follow us on Instagram at Miss KevOnStage, at KevOnStage. I've remembered I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
If you, so yesterday I didn't have any messages, or I thought I didn't have any messages in my instant DM, whatever it's called, on Instagram. And then I had like 5. So they don't give me notifications that you're doing that. So really, it's not the best way to contact me. So you can send an email to KevOnStage@gmail.com if you want to say something to me.
Yeah.
Or I have an open Facebook. You can find me, Melissa Fredericks, on Facebook, and you can just let me know there. Because if you are DMing me, chances are I won't see it because I don't like to check it because sometimes folks be real crazy.
Yes, Sax Prophet, you missed it. But as we end the broadcast, you can watch the whole thing on replay for 24 hours. And we got 300,000, 6,000 hearts. 300,000. And somebody, what's up, Chugga? Yeah, Chugga, Sax Prophet. Love you too, Papa
Love
D.
you, Daddy.
Somebody said don't do Ray. Just for that. Oh, they said do Ray.
No, you guys.
Ray. Georgia. Georgia. The whole day. That was pretty good. Just a old sweet song. Georgia on my mind. I said just a old sweet song.
She said don't do it. You should have capitalized the don't.
On my mind.
Somebody said I think it's good. Y'all are just nice. It's not good at all.
Jay said I look cold. I should have closed every Periscope with the Ray impression. I didn't know how to close them, and I'm just going to do this Ray impression so much you guys are going to look forward to it.
No.
I said this whole
That's probably Sharice that said that's been a little. She always gives you the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, my mind.
That's hilarious.
All right, we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. By the way, the podcast is always available on SoundCloud and iTunes. So if you miss it and you don't see it on YouTube, we always have them on SoundCloud and iTunes. Thank you so much. God bless you. God keep you. We will see you at the conference.
That we're not having.
Oh, we're having a conference. It's real.